What's poppin', people? Welcome back to For Beginners. I am your host, Shy Ill, and today we're covering day one of the ASAP Rocky trial. Being who I am, you already know I'm going to cut through all the bullshit. We're going to get to the stuff that matters. We're going to cut out all the legal, time-taking, time-consuming, legal mumbo-jumbo of it all. I'm not going to speak too much on it in advance. I'm just going to let it be known that this was a conflict between individuals in a quote-unquote group. Music group. Let's see if we find any red flags, any mistakes, any things that we could teach our people to do different than what was done in this scenario. But again, I'm not going to say much about the story because I'm going to let the courtroom handle that. Let them take care of that, and at the end we'll give our thoughts about what we think about it all. If you have yet to do so, please subscribe, hit the like button, hit the notification bell to stay abreast of what we're doing here at For Beginners. Now let's jump into the prosecution's opening statements.
This is not a complicated case. The evidence will show that the events in this case were captured on surveillance video.
That's not good. It's a rarity you got a crime nowadays where there's no camera footage. A rarity, boy. Unicorn shit. Did he just tuck hammer?
Now I'm going to move to the second location, that at Vista Del Mar and Selma. And I'm going to pre-warn you, it's a little small, it's at a distance, so you're going to want to focus your attention at the pre-warn you, it's a little small, it's at a distance, so you're going to want to focus your attention at the top left-hand corner.
Doesn't even look like nobody's scrapping. I don't know.
All right. Now let's go over the details. As I said, the people that are involved, the location, and I'll give you an explanation of what you've seen on these two videos. This case takes place in the heart of Hollywood. Now, the actual shooting in this case takes place on a much smaller street, on Selma and Vista Del Mar. But this is the area around where that shooting took place. It is a very densely populated part of Hollywood, and there are some landmarks on there that you might be familiar with, just so that you can familiarize yourself with the location that we're talking about. The Capitol Records building at the top, the W Hotel, and Hollywood Boulevard. The shooting, as you've seen, occurred just outside of a parking lot on that corner of Vista, Del Mar, and Selma. That was a parking lot at the time that was full of cars, and it was ringed by a nightclub on the corner, a sound studio, a hotel, and 3 different apartment buildings right around. As I said, densely populated. This was also Saturday night. Saturday, November 6, 2021, at about 10 p.m. in Hollywood.
Hi, I live in the apartment on the corner of Argyle and Selma in Hollywood, and there's just been a shooting.
So at 10:18 p.m., LAPD receives this call, that there's been a shooting at the intersection of Argyle and Selma. The call continues, though.
Did you see anything, or you just heard it?
Yes. No, we watched it.
Okay, what did you see?
There were 4 men, and they were kind of fighting as they were walking along Argyle, and then they turned left onto Selma. We heard yelling, and they started running, and they turned left into the back lot apartments for El Centro Apartments.
Now, the 4 men that you see on that screen will be the 4 men that we'll talk about in a minute. They were the 4 that were at that location.
And then someone pulled out, the guy in the black sweatshirt pulled out a gun.
Okay.
And he shot, and I think the guy who shot
Got off-white 5s on?
sweatshirt pulled out a gun.
Look like off-white 5s right there. I could be wrong. It's a grainy-ass video.
And he shot, and I think the guy who shot was in blue.
Now, the evidence in this case will be that the man in the black sweatshirt was the defendant, Rakim Mayers.
Played yourself.
That evidence will be uncontradicted. As you have heard throughout jury selection, Mr. Myers is an entertainer, and he goes by the stage name A$AP Rocky. You will hear other nicknames that he is referred to in the evidence in this case, including Flacco and Luigi. At the time of this crime, Mr. Mayers was 33 years old. He has his own company that I believe is referred to as AWGE, A-W-G-E, that you will hear referred to in the testimony in this case. And as we've talked about, his significant other is Rihanna. The victim in this case is a man by the name of Terell Ephron. And Mr. Ephron, you will hear, was also a member of the A$AP Collective, and he went by the nickname A Relli.
Where your eyebrows at, bro?
3 years old at the time of this crime. And what you will hear from Mr. Ephron is that he was friends with Mr. Myers well before this case and well before even Mr. Myers was a famous individual. That essentially, I believe they met in high school and grew up together. He has known Mr. Mayers 18 or 19 years at the time that this shooting happens. And you will also hear that he, too, at the time, was working in the music industry, and he had his own company called Shut Eye Entertainment. Now, I mentioned it already, but to put a finer point on it, the group that both of these men were members of is called A$AP. It doesn't stand for what you probably thought it did when you walked into court. It's an acronym for Always Strive and Prosper. It was formed by high school age kids in Harlem, New York around 2006. They call themselves a collective. You will hear are rappers, producers, music video directors, designers, people that have different artistic pursuits that essentially work together. And there are many members of A$AP. The ones that you will primarily hear in this case are obviously Mr. Mayers, the victim, but also the two friends that were with Mr. Mayers at the time this happened. And they go by A$AP Ills and A$AP 12E. And I will just pre-warn you that 12E gets spelled a bunch of different ways. It's not always consistent. And there will be one last member that you'll hear about briefly, who goes by the stage name A$AP Bari. Sometimes people refer to him as Young Lord. As I said, the four main members of this group that you will hear about are these four men. The victim is on the far right, Mr. Ephron. The defendant is the next person to his left. As I said, A$AP 12E, his given name is Jamel Phillips, and the last is Elijah Ulanger, who goes by A$AP Ills. And these were the four men who were present at the time of both of these incidents. Now I want to take you to that weekend, Saturday night in Hollywood. There was actually, at the time, a music festival or concert series going on known as Complex Con in Long Beach. And you will hear that Mr. Mayers was to be a performer at that event the day after the shooting, the Sunday, November 7th. Now, although I told you that Mr. Mayers and Mr. Ephron were close at one point, you will hear that throughout their relationship there was tension between the two of them. And that tension was essentially building up to the night of November 6th, 2021. You will not hear all the reasons why there was tension between the two of them, but we will get to the point the day before this shooting, November 5th, 2021, when that tension kind of comes to a head. But what happens on that day, Mr. Ephron will tell you, is that he is in a car with that last member of the A$AP group that I talked about, A$AP Bari. The two of them are driving when A$AP Bari receives a phone call from Mr. Mayers. And ASAP Bari takes that call on speakerphone, so Mr. Ephron, who's in the car, can hear both sides of the conversation. He can hear Mr. Mayers, and he can also hear.
Does he know that?
Bari.
They doing some snake shit to him.
Mr. Ephron, the victim, heard the defendant saying these rude and aggressive things about him.
Oh, he snaked him.
Mr. Mayers at the time does not know that Mr. Ephron is in the car with the victim. This leads to the next day, November 6, 2021. You'll hear that Mr. Ephron was in Los Angeles working with one of the artists that he managed. He was asleep around 9:00 p.m. when he started receiving a series of urgent messages from not only from Mr. Mayers, but from the two other men that were with him, ASAP Ills and ASAP 12. And you'll hear that he received a number of calls kind of back to back to back from the three of them. Now, he didn't answer those calls because he was sleeping, but when he ultimately woke up, he saw that he had a number of missed calls. He also received text messages from Mr. Mayers that were aggressive, seeking a confrontation with him, asking him where he was. Mr. Mayers is on the left side of this conversation.
Did they even find out that he was listening?
Stop ducking my calls.
Let's get to it. Stop ducking my calls. Where you at? Let's get to it. Stop ducking my calls. I'm in front of Trader Joe's. Drop location. All I need is location, brother.
Called the defendant. He was groggy because he had just woken up. They had a conversation and they agreed to meet outside of the W Hotel in Hollywood. Mr. Ephron will tell you that as he went to that meeting, he was of the frame of mind that he and Mr. Mayers were going to have a confrontation. That he believed they would argue, and that ultimately this would lead to kind of repairing their relationship. So they would each be able to speak their piece and essentially fight like brothers do, and that it would ultimately bring them closer together. They would repair sort of the issues that they each had with each other. So that's how Mr. Ephron is going into this meeting. Now, let's talk about the location where they meet, this location just outside of the W Hotel. The red arrows that you see here are the path of travel that Mr. Mayers took that evening. So it starts at that mid-block location on Argyle, continues down to Selma, and then up Vista Del Mar, around that corner, all the way to El Centro, and then he made a left turn on El Centro and went above, off the map. The numbers in the red boxes that you see here, 1, 2, 3, and 4, are the 4 different locations where the police were ultimately able to recover surveillance video from.
Shit.
You will also hear that locations 1, 2, and 4 captured video only. But you will hear that the location with the number 3 captured both video and audio. So I told you there's 2 incident locations, 2 altercations that happened. The first happens where the yellow box is right now, right outside of that parking garage. The second happens at that corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar. And that's where the firearm was actually discharged, where the gunshots were fired. So the first location I want to focus on is that where the initial confrontation happens. This location is the entrance and exit of a parking structure. This parking lot entrance has those hanging indicators on from the roof that tell you how tall the garage is, so that if you are driving a tall car, you don't run your car into the roof of the parking structure. And I point that out because when you watch the video, you'll actually see that red indicator as a kind of a line through the video, so you know what that is. At the mouth of that parking entrance, there are cameras that are facing the sidewalk. Those are the first view that we saw. And these cameras capture the initial encounter.
All right, so this is at the parking lot, okay.
And the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And you can...
Oh, no, that's Rocky right there. So that's Relli walking up. And ASAP Rocky's going to come from the other side and yoke him. I'll tell you what. I already seen him have his left hand behind his back. Look at his left hand. You can't see it as he's walking, but you could catch it right there. His hand's behind his back. He got his left hand behind his back. Is he making himself seem like he's holding? Is he showing like he's holding? Trying to stop the yoke up before it even happens? Let's see. He gets pushed back. Rocky got him by the... Well, dude had Rocky by the face. Rocky's hand is down here. Puts it behind him. He got the other hand on his face, on his neck. Dude got him by the face. Let's see. Dude didn't wanna. All right, so now they tussling. He pushing him back. I guess that's ASAP Ills, the first person to get in the mix. And that's Relli. Ills is backing him out of there. There's Rocky again. And Rocky got the hammer in his hand. There's too much lower third right here to see the hammer. But he does have the hammer in his hand. I'll turn off these captions. Rocky got the hammer in his left hand. Behind his back. I mean, what you think you gonna do, man, in the middle of Hollywood? What's wrong with you? Boom, hammer. Okay, comes back with the hammer, and he tucks it. All right, let's get back in real time.
Capture the initial encounter between the victim, Mr. Ephron, who you see there, and the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And you can see that Ills is the first one to intervene to try to separate the two of them. And then at the very bottom of the screen, you see 12E putting his hand to try to also intervene and help separate them. The first person that you see in that video is the victim, Mr. Ephron. The second person who you see, who is instantly confrontational with Mr. Ephron, is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. You see on the video that Mr. Mayers is immediately aggressive towards Mr. Ephron. He's pulling at Mr. Ephron's sweatshirt and he's pushing Mr. Ephron backward and pushes him off camera, out of camera view. The third person that you see, as I told you, is Elijah Ulanger, who also goes by ASAP Ills, or he might just be referred to as Ills throughout this. If you look closely, you can actually see his stage name embroidered on the jacket that he's wearing there. And what he attempts to do is to de-escalate this situation, to get between the two men and physically separate them. And you'll see that all three of them go off screen for a period of time. Mr. Ephron will tell you that during the period of time that they are off screen is when the defendant first produces that semi-automatic pistol from his waistband. He pulls it out of his waistband and he's holding it to Mr. Ephron.
Not looking good for Rocky.
That the defendant pointed the gun at his chest and was essentially trying to point the gun around Ills, who was between them. That at the time that he was pointing the gun at Mr. Ephron, he was also threatening Mr. Ephron. I'm going to kill you.
You just telling me he was pointing the hammer at him. We don't see that.
Men have known each other for a long time. And Mr. Ephron will tell you, in his state of mind, he never believed that he was going to be shot. He never believed that the defendant would actually shoot him. He will tell you that had this been a stranger, someone he didn't know as well, he would have been petrified. As you can imagine, anyone pointing a gun at you would upset you. But he knows the defendant. He knows that Mr. Mayers is not going to shoot him.
Shit.
He knows so much so that he'll tell you he looked at the defendant and said, if you brought a gun, you should shoot it.
Yeah. Talk that shit to the right one.
How confident he is that he knows the defendant is not going to pull that trigger. Now, the fourth person you can barely see on this video as they come back into frame, I told you, is Jamel Phillips, who goes by 12E or ASAP 12. And you can just see his hand at the very bottom of the screen. When they come back on screen, and specifically when Mr. Mayers comes back on screen, you can see the gun in his hand. You will hear that that gun that he's holding is a semi-automatic pistol, or has features that are consistent with a semi-automatic pistol. Right now, as he's paused on the screen, you can see that he's holding that gun behind his back. But you will also see the gun come forward in front of his body before he ultimately tucks it back into his waistband. You will hear that right after that encounter that you saw, that Mr. Mayers walked away and was walking down Argyle towards Selma. Mr. Ephron will tell you that as he walked away, he looked over at 12E, Mr. Phillips, and he saw 12E putting a pocket knife away. And then 12E, Mr. Phillips, walked behind the defendant, Mr. Mayers, and Ills walked behind him as well. So the three men that had come to confront Mr. Ephron walked away down Argyle towards Selma. And Mr. Ephron will tell you that at that moment, his mindset about the initial confrontation changed. I told you that Mr. Ephron will tell you when he first went there, he believed that this was meant to be a confrontation so that they could strengthen their relationship. But having just had a gun pointed at him and seeing another friend putting away a pocket knife, that his mindset changed, and he understood these men never came here to try to make peace with him. That it was always meant to be a confrontation. And he decided at that moment that having a gun pointed at him was sort of a bridge too far in their friendship. And he understood he was probably never going to have the same friendship, especially with the defendant, ever again.
Wah.
And you will hear that as the defendant walked away, Mr. Ephron followed behind him and was yelling and screaming at him, even though he knew the defendant had a gun. Because although Mr. Ephron believed this is going to damage our relationship, he still never believed that the defendant would actually shoot at him. It's not as if Mr. Ephron will tell you that he had some death wish or that he was not scared of guns. He will not come in and say that. What he will tell you, again, is that had anyone else done this, he would have been frightened. But he had known the defendant for so long, and they were close. So he walks down Argyle towards Selma and follows behind the three other men. When they get to Selma, they all turn left, and they walk towards Vista Del Mar. And they end up at that location we've talked about, that corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar.
I've never seen any of these videos before. I've only seen that car park video. And that little tiny one that he showed earlier.
What location number 3 captures is audio. And it captures the sound of the gun being fired twice. The red arrow is the defendant, Mr. Mayers. And the green arrow is the victim, Mr. Ephron. Okay.
So what, they was running around in circles and shit? There's 2 people scrapping? What's happening here?
Now what you see as the video plays is the various cameras on location number 2 switching between 3 different cameras that are mounted to that building. What's important about that, towards the end of the video, you'll see as Mr. Mayers is running away from the location, running down Vista Del Mar towards El Centro.
Skateboarder rolled up on him. What?
He trips a floodlight that's motion activated, and when you watch the video closely, that floodlight is captured by both locations. So location number 2 and location number 3, those cameras each capture that floodlight turning on. And when you watch the videos together, you can see that moment in time when the lights flash on, line up. And that's how you know the sound correlates with the video that you're seeing playing at the same time from a different location.
Run the multicam. Let's get it.
If you zoom in on the area where this incident happened, and we will play a zoomed in version of this video, what you see is a very pixelated image. But what even that captures still are the colors the individuals are wearing, which is how you can distinguish who is who on the video.
But I don't see
Mr.
shit
Ephron on
in
the
those
far
boxes.
left. Ills is just next to him. 12, who's wearing the red jacket, is just next to Ills. And then the defendant, who's wearing all black, is at the bottom of the screen. Again, I understand if you watch this video one time, you may not pick up these features, but as you watch it repeatedly, you'll be able to tell who is who.
There we go.
And
Zoom
you'll
out. I
also
can
be able
see
to tell
something. Shit.
when you watch these videos in sequence. So this is the zoomed in version of that incident. This does not have any audio.
Okay, now I can see what's real eye he busts at him. Are he trying to bust at dudes? The other dude is he trying to? They're trying to like shield each other from this shit?
Now, as we
They're using each other as a
you'll
shield.
also see that Mr. Ephron is struggling with Ills. And what Mr. Ephron will tell you is that immediately as the defendant turned and pointed the gun at him, he jumped behind Ills, essentially to put Ills between him
Wow.
and you'll see on the video the defendant lunging one way and then the other way around Ill,
Wow.
trying to get at the victim, who is
He used his
holding
boy.
Ill's
He
arm.
just used the dude that was there for him in that struggle. He
Now,
just used him as a
despite
human shield.
How dangerous this is.
Wow.
Having a
What?
Semi-automatic pistol pointed at you and discharged twice. You will hear that Mr. Ephron was not seriously injured by this shooting. He has these injuries to the middle knuckle of one of his hands. Mr. Ephron will tell you that at the time the shooting was happening, he immediately felt a burning sensation to his hand, which led him to believe that these were graze wounds from one of the bullets that was shot at him. Perhaps they were. Perhaps they were not.
Come on, man. That's you scraping all over the floor, trying to get away, trying to hold your boy in front of you as a human shield. Listen, man. That's some real sucker shit right there. What? Definitely ain't no graze wound.
Whether or not the victim in this case was actually shot or injured by this will not be something that you have to decide at the end of the case. We ask you to wait until the end of the case when the judge instructs you on the law.
Listen, I'm a day behind on this trial. I didn't watch day one. I'm reacting to day one now. I didn't watch it live. I caught about 5 minutes of ASAP Relli testimony and was compelled. All right, I put it in my Discord. I was compelled to get up and cover day one and get on this trial. Why? Because just the familiarity of the sucker nature of the shit that I heard in that first 5 minutes of listening. And guess what? Confirmed. You dragging your boy, the dude that was there to save you, holding him up in front of you. Run, bitch. Fight, do something. But you hiding behind your boy that tried to save you. He trying to get away from you now. If you ask me, that's an assault on him. That's an attempt on his life. You know you the target, you waving your boy around in front of dude. That shit is bananas to me.
El Centro. The camera itself is in that red.
Just after they got busted.
And you'll see this video is far more clear. And you'll see features
Yeah, off-white fives. I was right. It's clear in this picture.
of their clothing that you can match up to the clothing from the other videos that we've already watched. For instance, I mean, you can see just from Mr. Mayers' facial features that he's the one wearing all black. You can see from his facial features compared to the video from the parking structure. And then, as I said, the various features of his clothing, the rhinestones on the hood of his sweatshirt in both videos, and the design, the rhinestone design on the chest of his sweatshirt at both videos. And taking all the videos in their totality and comparing them is how you'll be able to decide on the video who is who. You will also hear from Mr. Ephron that approximately an hour, and he's not precise on the exact time, but approximately an hour after the shooting, he himself returned to the location. Now, at this time, the police have already responded and left. Mr. Ephron will tell you that he and his girlfriend went there specifically to look for evidence that this had happened.
Wow.
Evidence of this shooting.
This guy.
And Mr. Ephron will tell you, because he knew exactly where the shooting happened, that he was able to locate 2 fired cartridge cases. And this is actually a photograph that Mr. Ephron himself took.
They sat at the crib
one of the fired cartridge
and they was
cases
talking
that
about,
he
listen, man, he took a shot at me. This is my shot.
Mr.
About to get
Ephron
this money.
will Here, photo to locate.
Let's go get
Ephron
some
will tell
shells
you
so that we could.
the evidence of the
Shit.
shooting. You will hear that the 2 cartridge cases that he brought in
Buddy found his
were
come up.
9
He antagonized his
millimeter
come up.
caliber cartridge cases.
He almost antagonized his own demise, but he definitely antagonized his own come up. He said, I'm going to go back and find some shell casings.
And this is actually a photograph that Mr. Ephron himself took of one of the fired cartridge cases that he found.
That the police didn't find.
Mr. Ephron, you'll hear, went to the police 2 days later walked into the Hollywood police station to report this crime happening. He brought the 2 fired cartridge cases with him, and he gave them to the police. You will hear that the 2 cartridge cases that he brought in were 9mm Luger caliber cartridge cases. However, you will also hear from Mr. Ephron that immediately after the shooting, about an hour and a half later, he started text messaging the defendant. And he text messaged the defendant, "You try killing me." That was the first message he sent to him. And you'll hear that Mr. Mayers...
That sounds like him trying to get some kind of... He's just trying to get all his shit, all his ducks in a row, all his little evidences together. He got them.
Mayers' response was to deny that anything happened. The defendant, in abbreviation, says, "What the fuck is you talking about? Why are you telling people I shot at you?" Denying that any shooting has even happened. Mr. Ephron confronts him again. "You set me up to try to take me from my daughter." And the defendant responds, "I tried to do what I know you hate me."
Yeah, this sounds like a play to me, man.
The defendant responds again, "Stop making shit up."
A play on one side and you played yourself on the other side.
Again, denying any confrontation took place. Certainly any shooting. We've already told you in jury selection, and you will hear evidence, that after this shooting, Mr. Ephron sought money from Mr. Mayers. In fact, right, hours after the shootings, this is the next day, November 7th, in the early morning hours, 3:30 a.m., you'll hear that Mr. Ephron sent a message to one of his friends.
Bruh, I read dude's character in the 5 minutes that I heard him speak, bro. There it is. I didn't want to cover the ASAP Rocky trial because, frankly, there's too much shit to cover all over the place. But after hearing the victim speak, I have to. I have to. It's a must. Because I knew what I was hearing. I heard it before. I seen it before. Many times. Somebody asked why. He's just a dumb motherfucker, and I see many like him, so I feel compelled to cover it. And these text messages, confirmation for me. It don't take much for me. I don't have to go through much more. You can't explain change to me and the person done changed and this or that or the other. None of that shit. Look at him. I want to get his money. Buddy's like, bro, he probably going to get you to perform at Complex Con. He's going to put you on. You're going to get on stage. You're going to do your thing. He's like, I want his money too. He shot at me. Question marks. You know that for sure? So he don't know the story. Whoever he's talking to don't know the story yet, right? This sounds like they've had this conversation before. Shitting on dude. Talking about getting something out of him. I don't know. That's just me. Here we go. Let's get it.
You'll hear that Mr. Ephron sent a message to one of his friends saying that he wants money. And identifying the reason why he wants that money is because Mr. Mayers shot at him. You will also hear that based upon these two incidents, the parking lot and the shooting on the corner, that Mr. Ephron filed a civil lawsuit against Mr. Mayers.
Of course he did. And he got shells.
At the end of this case,
He knew he had to, in order to get the civil joint, you got to beat that criminal joint, so he knew what he had to do. He talked himself into his come up.
Mr. Mayers' home was searched on April 20th of 2022. And that during that search, LAPD detective recovered a magazine for a semi-automatic pistol that was 9mm caliber, and that it was loaded with 6 unfired 9mm Luger rounds of live ammunition. You will hear that these items were found in Mr. Mayers' bedroom closet. You will also hear that there was no handgun that was 9mm in Mr. Mayers' home that was for that magazine. So you have a 9mm magazine but no handgun to go with it. We expect, in this case, that the defense will call 12B, Mr. Phillips, to testify. And it is expected that he will testify that the defendant was in fact the person on the video who fired the 2 gunshots that we hear. So it will essentially be uncontested that Mr. Mayers was the person who fired the gun at that street corner, and that he will tell you the gun that the defendant fired was a starter pistol.
A starter
That,
pistol.
ladies and gentlemen, is what the evidence in this case will show at the end of this case. As I've said, we expect that the defense will attempt to present an alternative explanation for what happened that night.
Well, of course.
But we
It's
ask
their
you to
job.
do one thing, which is, as you evaluate the evidence from both sides in this case, to not leave your common sense at the door. And wait until the end of the case, when you have all the evidence, to make your decision, listen to the court's instructions on the law, and return the only just verdict there is.
All right, now we're going to get into the defense.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about one man's jealousy, lies, and greed. And that man is not Rocky. That man's
What?
Ephron,
Yeah, hold on.
Relli.
Hey, listen, I might be with this defense attorney right here. Hold on. Let's get it.
Ladies and gentlemen, this case is about one man's jealousy, lies, and greed. And that man is not Rocky. That man's Terell Ephron, or you've heard the name Relli. He is the source of all the evidence in this case, all of it. That the prosecution is going to rely on, he's the source of all the evidence. The 2 assaults you're going to hear about in this case were both committed by this Relli. Both. All the evidence comes through his mouth. Every single piece of evidence for you to decide these charges comes through his mouth. This case rises or falls on his credibility. The videos you saw, without his testimony, proves absolutely nothing. You need to believe his testimony and his version of events from the video for these charges to be proven. The last thing the district attorney said on his opening statement to you was, don't leave your common sense at the door, or use your common sense, something like that. Please don't leave your common sense at the door. I implore you to use your common sense in this case. Look, I will address the credibility of Relli in great detail later with the evidence.
Good, I'm looking forward to that. You still played yourself, son.
The evidence will show you that Rocky was a self-made man, risen from the most humble beginnings to extraordinary successes through work, dedication, and artistic
Your Honor,
brilliance.
this is argument is also irrelevant. Overruled. What is said in opening statement is not evidence. What is evidence is what can be proven. Sometimes things are said in opening statement that cannot be proven and are not proven. Sometimes they are. That's what this case will be about.
Remember my promises. I'll remember theirs. When we talk in a few weeks on closing statements. I remember the DA put up a slide in the opening. It's from Harlem, a picture of him and Rihanna. Talked about when he was a teenager. I want to do the same thing. You'll hear he was born in Harlem, like they said. He was raised in poverty.
Your Honor,
You'll hear that
same, Your Honor, the same objection.
Overruled, aka shut your ass up.
He's not only a celebrated artist and a fashion icon, he's a man who raised a beautiful family. As the district attorney put up the picture of his significant other.
Your Honor, just a second. You got to get to the facts of the case.
The evidence will show you that this Relli presents himself to the world as a wealthy,
I believe it. I believe this.
successful man.
Always talking about he got a business.
Source like that, he's a reporting artist, businessman. He flaunts a very lavish lifestyle on social media. He poses with luxury goods. He's nothing more than a fraud, built on not on success and hard work, but upon criminal activity. Ladies and gentlemen, this case is all about money. I've said it once, twice, I'll say it a few more times. The evidence will show you it's nothing more than a money grab.
That's what it sounds like. But
A clear attempt at extortion by
ASAP
Relli,
played right into it.
so he could keep funding his
A$AP Rocky.
extravagant life. You're going to see the only reason we're in this courtroom is because Rocky would not agree to be a victim of another one of his crimes. That's why we're here. Because Rocky said, here's some money. We're not here. He doesn't go to the police. And even after he went to the police, if Rocky gave him money, we're not here. It's not about justice, it's about money for him. Period, end of story. And I will show you that. The evidence will make clear that Relli is trying to leverage a fabricated story to extract money from Rocky, using lies to support these claims. And the evidence will show you that Relli is a blatant perjurer, someone who takes an oath, and despite that oath lies, is this case.
You said you'll see him commit perjury in this courtroom?
Yet, despite all the evidence they claim to have, all of it, and I mean all of it, will rise and fall on the word of Relli and his credibility. Period. End of story. You will see, if you can't believe him, the prosecution's case fails. Now let's walk you through the events leading to the incident of November 6th, 2021.
Get to it,
That
Papa.
part of this case. But to do that, we have to start a few years back. From Relli's own testimony, that was the catalyst for this incident. His resentment, from his own testimony, his resentment was the catalyst for this incident. And his animosity for
His
Rocky.
resentment, his animosity.
The evidence will show you that Relli met Rocky when he was in high school in Harlem. They were both part of that creative and artistic conglomerate called ASAP, which now you know means always strive and prosper. Over the years, Rocky achieved more and more success in the entertainment industry at first. He did maintain a friendship with this Relli, unfortunate for him. He even sought to help Relli through professional collaboration. But that wasn't enough for Relli, clearly. You'll see the kind of person Relli is in this courtroom. You're going to see it. He was jealous and angry, and as Rocky rejected some of the projects he presented him, Relli's resentment grew deeper and darker.
The real thing. That's a real thing.
But that wasn't so embittered by the success achieved by Rocky. Someone he once considered peer, Relli embarked on a dangerous course of action. And in November 2021,
Rocky needs to
Relli's
stop
resentment
agreeing.
towards him
Just stay
reached a
still.
fever pitch. After tragedy had struck another member of this ASAP group, an individual named ASAP Josh had untimely death and passed away. Evidence will show you that Rocky stepped up, spoke to the parents and the mom, ASAP Josh, and offered to cover the cost for the funeral, bring the body back to New York and pay for the funeral. But Relli, still blinded by resentment, believed otherwise. He thought for some reason Rocky didn't agree to pay, or had agreed to pay, but then didn't actually pay. And he was furious. He went as far as to threaten physical violence against him because he thought he didn't pay for the funeral or for the expense of flying the body back. He was wrong because he did pay. But he went as far as to threaten physical violence. And you're going to see that for yourself, ladies and gentlemen. On October 16th, a few weeks before this incident that you'll hear about, Relli told his friend that Rocky was a piece of shit and declared, "I'm going to beat this nigga up." Now it's funny, they showed you a lot of text messages. I didn't see that one. Did not see that one. That's the catalyst. That's weeks before this incident, when he came in hot on November 6, 2021, on Argyle. And if you fast forward only a few weeks, on November 6, 2021, you'll see that. You see that Relli sought to turn those threatening words into dangerous actions. And he did. The evidence will show you that on November 6, 2021, Rocky was scheduled to attend a music festival. They put it up there called Complex Con, with 2 other members of the ASAP crew, Elijah Ulanga and Jamel Phillips. You now know them as ASAP Ills and ASAP 12. So, in order to address Relli's resentment, because he was really mad, and have him accompany Ills and 12 to the festival, Rocky reached out to him multiple times. As a matter of fact, I think he saw a text from one of Relli's friends to Relli saying, hey, I think he wants you, Rocky wants you to perform at Complex Con. So Rocky was trying to get him to come. It was sort of a celebration of the ASAP crew. So Rocky, yes, he was urgently messaging him because they were late for this Complex Con. You're going to hear that from multiple witnesses. He was making them late for the show, so there were multiple messages from both 12 and Rocky. Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? However, you're going to learn that although Relli, because Rocky had reached out to Relli to make plans to meet at his hotel, and you're going to learn, however, that Relli said he was staying at the Lowe's Hotel, who was in fact staying at the Lowe's Hotel, lied to Rocky and said he was staying at the W Hotel. Why? Because he wanted Rocky to think he was staying at a nicer place, according to him, which is consistent with his pattern of showing off a phony, extravagant lifestyle. But also consistent with his pattern of lying. You'll see Relli committed perjury about that exact reason. And despite Rocky's best intentions, the evidence will show you that Relli was angry when he agreed to meet Rocky that day. And that anger came to a head when he encountered Rocky on the street, outside of a parking lot, on Argyle Avenue, leading to a brief altercation that took place on the street, which you saw a clip of, a very short clip of. You'll learn that Relli claims Rocky instigated, Relli, by the way, is twice the size of him, but we'll get to that.
These two are giggling and shit down
Relli
there.
claims that Rocky instigated the altercation, but the evidence will show you it was Relli who was the one looking for a fight. And you'll hear about Relli's day in the hours before meeting Rocky. You'll hear what happened in that day. Independent of Rocky in that day. You'll hear Relli's claim that Rocky pressed the gun to his stomach, to his chest, and his head. But the evidence, the independent evidence, the stuff that you don't need Relli's word for, we'll show you all.
Showed none of that.
Fortunately, the video evidence from the parking garage captured the incident. And that was lied to Relli's fabricated story about that. The video will also show you who the real aggressor was here. It shows you that Relli approached Rocky and reached out first. It was Relli who made the first physical contact. You can see in a second.
And he did have his hand behind his back like he had something.
It also shows that what followed was a very quick scuffle. Again, you saw it. With Relli making physical contact and pulling Rocky towards him. Not Rocky pushing Relli, who outweighs him by almost 100 pounds. Not Rocky pushing Relli, but Relli pulling Rocky. The DA said in his opening, he said that Rocky was pushing Relli. You know who else said Relli was pulling Rocky? Relli said that. Relli in a statement. And when he watched the video, said, yes, I was pulling Rocky this way. That's not a good narrative. So they just changed that. But Relli has made statements about this incident. And they're stuck with those. It shows the incident was over in a matter of seconds, this videotape. And despite Relli's exaggerated claims that there was no evidence that a gun was pressed against his stomach, directed at his chest, or pointed at his head. There's none. Because it didn't happen. Instead, the evidence shows that Relli, again, physically much larger than Rocky, was the antagonizer here. Now, all that being said, I do need to pause here for a second. I need to pause here for a second and address the very thing that serves as the basis for Relli's fabricated story. The video that you saw, the first video, shows Rocky holding an object what appears to be a gun. And Relli seized on that and manufactured his extortion claim. And we'll get to the extortion in a bit. And remember, this is a promise from me. We'll see extortion. And if I'm not good on my promise, you'll hold it against me. I want you to. The evidence will make clear that the object Relli alleged was a firearm was absolutely nothing more than a prop gun. The DA ended his opening statement saying, 12B will tell you that. He'll testify on behalf of Rakim tell you that. Not just 12B, multiple witnesses will tell you that. Not just 12B. Multiple witnesses will tell you they'll hold a starter gun, a blank gun, but it's a type of fake gun. It's used in prop movies and music videos.
Stop it.
It's also used to scare off attackers by looking and sounding like a real gun, without actually firing a live round. The evidence will show you that Rocky, obviously, I think you all know by now, is a high-profile person in the public spotlight, and he was a target. The evidence will show, in fact, that he was the victim of prior violence, which caused him to have to carry this. Victim of home invasions, victim of a stalker at that time, in November of 2021, victim of a slashing on his face, which he still carries with him today. It's,
Your Honor, there's been no
Rocky was advised by security to carry a prop gun to scare off potential attackers. Right, and by the way, folks, listen to this one. Rocky was licensed to possess firearms and licensed to carry firearms in
So
November.
why is he walking around with a
licensed
prop gun?
by the state of California? He could have legally had his own firearm. He didn't want to carry a real gun, though. Despite his ability to do so legally, he didn't want to carry a real gun.
Why?
For fear that he would either injure someone or himself.
Come on, man.
He was licensed to carry a gun in this state. So you're going to learn that in July 2021, a few months before the incident with Relli, Rocky was in a music video with Rihanna that had prop guns in it. The evidence will show you that Rocky took one of them, which he carried as a security measure, as he was advised to do to scare off potential attackers.
Advised by who? The prop master? Prop master not happy that he left with the prop gun? With the prop hammer?
Unfortunately, you hear that Relli was not to be deterred, not scared, because Relli knew that that gun wasn't real. There will be evidence to that effect. And all of Rocky's friends knew that Rocky carried a prop gun for safety. All of them.
Come on, man.
In fact, the evidence will show you
Prop gun for safety? Stop.
that
I feel like you
not
took it
only
an extra
told
step
Rocky
there.
as much.
You couldn't account for the
He
hammer.
actually called Rocky's bluff and said, shoot me, shoot me. Knowing that he couldn't. With all this laid out, I do want to show you the video and walk you through it with respect to the first encounter. I'm going to play it once, it's quick, and then I want to show you two snippets. Here's the first encounter. That's Relli coming up.
Hand behind his back. Y'all didn't mention that. Y'all ain't good lawyers. I'd have been like, Your Honor, as you can see, or jury, as you can see, Buddy has his left hand behind his back. Could he be bluffing? As if he has a weapon? I don't know. See? Y'all didn't see nothing.
Okay, now, there's two things I want to play for you in there. The first thing is, the first person to raise a hand to anyone is Relli. You're going to see when he comes up, initially, that's him, we all agree, in those black pants coming up. First person in the video. See, he goes with his left hand. He raises his hand first. Play that one snippet, please.
Left hand behind his back first.
Play the next clip, please.
Yeah, Rocky's hands are still down.
He has his hand around Rocky's neck or shoulder, and Rocky's right hand then finally comes up. Boom.
Told y'all that.
This guy has his hands around Rocky's neck or shoulder.
He tried to hammer bluff Rocky. He went over there with his hand behind his back like he had a hammer or something. He saw Rocky was probably all systems go. And Buddy was like, hold on, let me bluff this hammer real quick.
And then you heard and you saw in the video, they going backwards. Relli, again, who's much bigger, you can see that from there, said to the police, yeah, I pulled him back. I pulled him back. They told you, well, Rocky pushed him back. That's not what Relli said. Defies sort of the laws of physics. He outweighs him by almost 100 pounds. Relli pulled him back. And by the way, all the gun pointing to the head, chest, pressed against the stomach would have had to have happened within seconds of that video with that kid Ills in between them. Seconds. You saw none of that on the video. And the second encounter, after that brief altercation by the parking garage, Relli was angry and out of control still. And he wouldn't stop.
Yeah, that was your opportunity, Relli, to go the other way.
The evidence will show you that those three guys, Rocky, Ills, and Schwelby, walked away. They walked away. There was a map put up here. I don't have one of those. It was nice. It was a map showing where the first thing happened, and then there's a block, and then a walk around the block where the second thing happened. That guy followed them around two corners. Pursuing them.
He didn't get enough.
He hadn't had enough, apparently.
Damn.
They were walking away from him, trying to get away from him.
Yeah, he was antagonizing himself
them
into a
around
payday.
two corners. And the evidence will show you that those guys, Rocky, Ills, and Schwelby, tried to get away from him. They tried. You'll hear that, although Relli claimed that Rocky had a real gun, now, Relli not only continued to follow the guy with a real gun, but he followed and yelled at them and berated them and told the Ills, you're a crackhead. And told Schwelby, you live in the projects. You're not successful
Ills,
like me. And told
Ills
Rocky,
just got dude off of you.
So the guy who supposedly pulled a real gun on him, and now apparently someone else has a knife too, and they're running away from him, he's chasing them, antagonizing them, bragging about his own successes. You'll listen to Relli's story about that, ladies and gentlemen. You get to assess the credibility. Even the police questioned him. Why would you continue to follow Rocky after he supposedly pulled a real gun out on you? Said the police to Relli. And you'll hear Relli's answer to the police. I don't know. That was the answer. I don't know. I promise you that answer is going to change in this courtroom. That's what he said initially when asked. And of course he didn't know. He had to say, I didn't know why I followed him. Because he couldn't tell the police the truth that he knew Rocky's gun was a prop gun. Because that wouldn't work for his narrative. One that could actually shoot him. And because he was aware of that fact, Relli continued his aggression. You'll hear that Relli was so angry that he was ready to hit Schwelby, according to Relli. You'll hear that he was so angry that he hated Ills, according to Relli. You'll learn that when Relli finally caught up with him around two corners, on the corner of Selma and Vista Del Mar, his anger and hatred came to a boiling point, and he attacked his kid Ills. Attacked him. And make no mistake about this, the evidence will show you Relli was the aggressor there as well. And Rocky, again, significantly smaller than Lee, fired that prop gun, that starter gun, which makes sounds just like a real gun. That's the purpose of it. He fired it twice, hoping
But I'm not buying that part. I feel like that's the loose part of the case.
Wrong. Relli didn't stop. He didn't stop because he knew it was a prop gun, but he didn't stop. And the evidence will show you that after Rocky fired those two warning shots with that prop gun, car alarms went off. Because there was that big parking lot right there where they were. Car alarms went off. I'm sorry that you guys are here. It's hard to look everywhere. So 12E, being sort of sound mind, told Rocky, hey, listen, man, get out of here. The car alarms are going off now. People are going to start coming. Rocky obviously is a public figure, and now people are going to have their attention drawn to this. Get out of here. Rocky listened. He persuaded Rocky to leave the scene. 12E said, I'll check on Ills, because Ills was having a rough go of it. Ills is smaller than Rocky. And Relli was pummeling. You're going to hear about how Ill's face looked after this encounter.
So, wait, so Relli beat the shit out of Ills? Is that what we're talking about here?
So,
Relli beat the shit out of Ills, the dude that he was
Ills
using as a
human shield.
There you go, human shield.
So you'll hear a different story from Relli. He claims, he claims he grabbed him, Ills as a human shield. A human shield.
Either way, it's still some whole coward shit. You know what I'm saying? Whether you did that shit, human shield, or you whooped him. He the only dude that seemed to have, kept you from getting aired out in that first interaction.
Funny, Ills didn't get shot. But he was the human shield. Evidence will show you that's just another lie. It's another lie. The evidence will show you that. You'll see that Relli knew the prop gun couldn't hurt him, first of all. Second, you're going to see that Relli wasn't hiding behind Ills or under Ills. In fact, in the video, if you look carefully, and we'll show you, you'll see that Relli's on top of Ills as they're on the floor, on top of him, punching. And even after Rocky left the scene, that's simple. Even after Rocky left the scene and ran, the evidence will show you that Relli continued to attack Ills.
Crazy.
A witness will walk you through that. That sort of is a problem for them. I mean, this guy was claimed he was shot at one point, and he is still attacking the guy that he started to attack before there was any warning shots fired. He's still attacking. Not to be deterred by any starter pistol or real bullets from him. The DA played you a video here that had that sound. There was a little box in the bottom and it had sound. There were pop pop. That video was called the sequence surveillance video. The district attorney played on the roll. Funny part about that video is that they cut out that last part of the video.
Well, he's still getting his ass whooped?
But the part where Ills goes back and attacks, Relli goes back and attacks Ills. They cut that part of that video out. It's not that sequence surveillance video.
I need to see that.
They cut out those last 3-4 seconds. That's a problem. Relli physically attacked Ills. Rocky tried to use a prop gun to defend him.
I'm not buying the prop gun. Now, it being a prop gun can explain why he didn't get smoked. Why Rocky made him dance rather than putting something in him.
He's following. You see him go right after Ills, Relli, and that's when Rocky fires the warning shots. And there's Ills on top. Relli on top of Ills, punching him. That's Ills going down to the ground.
He's smacking Ills around.
Rocky's gone. 12E's about to be gone. And watch. There goes Relli back after Ills. And then he goes away after he hits him again. Ills eventually caught up with...
maybe it was a prop gun. If it was a prop gun, you stupid as shit. What you hiding
The first one is then... Relli,
Rock
that's
in the
Ills
middle of the
down,
street.
and Relli on top of him. Look at him. He's not worried about a shield. He's going after
And
him.
he is pushing him around. He's trying to grab him, smack him,
And then the last clip is...
something.
Are we playing that last clip too? Take a look at it. It's after Rocky's gone, Relli continues his pursuit of Ills. This poor little kid. There. And he hits him again before he peels off. He goes to the left to hit Ills, and then he goes to the right. Unfortunately, Rocky's attempt to scare off Relli didn't have the intended effect, obviously. Instead, Relli continued his attack on Ills, and then hatched his extortion plan.
That's what it feels like.
Relli returned to that scene an hour later, and he attempted to fabricate evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, this is some offensive stuff. It's going to be crystal clear to you.
I hope you don't go too far,
Fabricate evidence. You hear Relli's claim
lawyer man.
that he came back to the area an hour later with his girlfriend Lydia Parker, and that while they were there, he quickly found 2 shell casings that Rocky fired right there. He picked them up, and he found them. And then he videotaped them. An hour later, you will see that story fall apart so hard. Why? Because the evidence will show you that well before Relli returned to the area, 7 police officers, like a SWAT, 7 police officers arrived at that same spot. They responded to the scene and carefully searched
That's what I'm
every
saying. They
inch
found nothing.
of that area.
But dude
I,
did.
I could not believe what I heard on the opening statement. Oh, the police didn't know where to look.
The middle of the
Searched
street. He
the
busted at
exact
him in the middle of the street.
Same spot. Not close to it, not near it, the exact same spot. Thank God there's videotapes. There's a body cam from the police where they were searching. And there's that surveillance video that you see here that captured Relli coming back an hour later. Exact same spot.
What? Yeah, middle of the street. That's where they were at. That's where he
The
started
police are
busting.
searching with flashlights. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4 right there right now. There were 7. There's another one here. This is where the alleged tussling was with Relli and Ills. Rocky's here. Trelby's here. Here's the corner they came around.
Bro, don't touch the
So
screen.
this is where the
You
shots.
touching the screen and shit. Take the pointer and don't touch the screen. Look, they said a laser pointer. He came with a big ass 1969 science class pointer.
This is where the shots were.
Don't touch the screen.
Easy on the screen.
This is where the shots were discharged according to Relli, right here. Okay, right here. Look at where they're searching. This is where Relli, as he comes back an hour. This is the
Anywhere in
corner
this whole radius
that they all
right
came
here.
around.
Anywhere in this whole radius
Right
is where it
here.
would have been. And
This
if
is
they
where it all
didn't find
started.
it,
They're searching. Go down. Directly across, a few feet there is where they're searching. You know where that is? That's Relli an hour later. According to the police, they captured that surveillance video. That's him an hour later.
you're right there, middle of the
Coming
street.
back. What the police officers searching that scene found were no shell casings, no bullet fragments anywhere, and they were there. 7 officers with flashlights searching everywhere. No shell casings, no bullet fragments, no damaged property. Understand, there was a parking lot full with cars right across from where this alleged shooting was, real ones, right? Not a window broken, a tire popped, a dent in a piece of metal. No damage to any vehicle at all. One of the police officers on the scene said, there's no evidence of a gun being fired. But still, they're going to ask you to believe Relli, who miraculously found them in the dark an hour later after 7 trained officers with searchlights in the same exact spot couldn't find them. So much for the officers didn't know where to look. They were right in the same spot. So, for that matter, although Relli is going to claim his girlfriend was there with him, because that gives a corroborating witness. I can back the story up, right? When he found those shell casings an hour later, the video evidence in this case will show otherwise. That she wasn't with him, unless she's a ghost. That she wasn't with him. Thank God for those surveillance videos.
Man. Because he
So
just
what
said
did
the stories.
Relli first do with the videos he made of the shell casings? Did he go to the police? No. He didn't contact the police. Instead, he sent them to Rocky and Rocky's manager and said, I'm going to be rich. That was his first thought. I'm going to be rich. I mean, here's someone who basically claims he was shot. That was the initial story, shot. He miraculously recovered the evidence from the crime scene that the police couldn't find. And he didn't go to the police. His first thought was, I'm going to be rich. Well, the evidence will show you that Relli committed perjury without those messages. He actually texted a message meaning, I'm going to be rich. He said, I'm going to be itch at one point. But he said, oh, I didn't mean rich when I said itch. I meant irritable. Yeah, because itch and irritable is not very close.
Come on, man.
Itch.
Hit me with the
Sometimes
bullshit.
itch is irritable.
We see you coming from a mile away. I don't know if the jury will, though.
And you'll learn shortly after sending those messages to Rocky and his business manager, you're going to learn that Relli sent another message to his business partner, to Relli's business partner, saying, I want to get this money. That's what was on his mind, not his near-death experience. Oh my God, how did he even survive that scrape on his knuckles? Not running to the police to arrest the culprit. No. Texting everyone, I'm going to get rich, I'm going to get his money. That's all he cared about. The evidence will show you that Relli fabricated these shell casings in order to extort Rocky. Right from the outset, right from the get-go.
So now let's think about it. They found a Ruger magazine in Rocky's house with a couple, with like four or six rounds left. Some strange shit here. Because Buddy came back with Ruger shells. This guy's talking about prop gun. The hammer is the trickiest part of this whole thing.
The evidence will show you that Relli fabricated these shell casings in order to extort Rocky. Right from the outset, right from the get-go. And why did he think he could get away with that? Why? Because Relli didn't know that the police had already returned within minutes of the sounds and the incidents there and searched the scene. He didn't know that. Of course, they didn't find anything. We talked about that already. There was no actual shooting because there was no real gun. There was no evidence of a shooting because there was no real gun.
So where's the prop hammer now?
And that's why that same night, in response to Relli's text to Rocky texted him, if I shot you, go to the police. They didn't show you that text, though. Showed you a bunch of texts between Relli and Rocky that night. They didn't show you that text. Rocky saying, go to the police. Yeah, because someone who really shoots someone and is guilty said, yeah, go to the police. Rocky texted that night. But of course, he didn't go to the police. That was not on his mind. You'll hear what he thinks of the police, this Relli. After his immediate efforts to extort Rocky failed, because he just wanted to get rich, he wanted to get that, need his money, as he said. When it didn't work, he said, okay, I better go get a civil lawyer. After he tried on his own to get the money, let me go get a civil lawyer to try and get money out of Rocky. And you'll hear that because the civil lawyer would only take his case if he went to the police. Relli then went to the police 2 days later. 2 days after the incident, he finally goes to the police.
That sounds like
And you'll
that
learn
sounds
of his
about right.
inconsistent statements.
That sounds about how I felt the moment I heard that dude Relli open his mouth and start speaking.
Police, you'll hear this ridiculous claim like the one about him being shot. I mean, you saw that picture. The supposed proof of him being shot, the knuckle scrapes, the superficial knuckle scrapes across his knuckles. which are consistent with him doing what you see in the video, attacking somebody, attacking pills. That did not feel the right way. But attacking somebody and punching and scraping it up on the ground. What kind of bullet does that? Hits one knuckle, bounces down, hits another knuckle, bounces down again. I mean, it's ridiculous that he said that. He got shot. That was his first story. Now you hear that backed off way off that thing now. You'll hear his ridiculous thing about that injury, that it was a gunshot wound that required medical attention, he first said. Of course, now the DA just said to you, oh, you don't have to decide at the end of this case if you got shot or not. You don't have to decide. Don't worry about it. Not that easy. Not that easy. You do have to decide because his credibility is at issue here. You have to decide if he was lying, if he was embellishing, if he was making up a story to get money. So if he says he got shot, and you find he didn't get shot, you do have to decide that.
Facts. A liar gonna lie.
$30 million for the knuckle scrape. $30 million. It's not a lot of money. Not justice. Oh, he also claims that he has a permanent disability. Permanent disability from the knuckle scrape.
Of course.
I mean, he lies about almost everything in this case. You're going to see an Instagram video of him with that permanent disability, showing his manicured hand, turning it around with his Rolex watch on. Permanent disability. It is offensive to a different level. He even claims he went for necessary medical treatment for his injury to a hospital, but not here in LA, where he was shot.
Where
he waited all the way from California to New York to go to a hospital many days later.
Come on, man.
After getting a civil lawyer and being told by the detective in this case, really, you should go to the hospital. Not to make sure you're not going to die. Not to make sure you don't lose use of your hand. Not to make sure your knuckles heal. The detective said, you should go to the hospital for this case. Do you think they're trying to build a case here? Is that what we do? We instruct victims to go to the hospital to make it look better? Those scrapes are no more proof of a real gunshot than those shell casings that the 7 officers did not find are. And what else did the police not find after Relli turned in the shell casings over to them, finally, after walking around with them God knows where for 2 days? What else did the police not find? You'll hear that the police, despite examining them for fingerprints, didn't find Rockies on them. Because bullets, metal, capture prints. So if someone loads a bullet into a gun, got prints are going to be on that. Not Rockies. Now, the shell casings apparently had no fingerprints on them whatsoever. As if someone who claimed to find them after the fact wiped them completely clean. And what else wasn't found on those shell casings? Rocky's DNA. They took samples, the police did, of Rocky's DNA for the purpose of comparison. 0. Nothing. Never connected to the shell casings. You'll learn that he legally possessed firearms, which in fact were recovered from his home. You saw that whole bunch of pictures. He had firearms legally in his home. No problem. Evidence will show you that none of those firearms recovered were 9mm caliber. Because he didn't have one. You'll learn that the shell casings that Relli claims to have recovered from the scene are exactly the type of gun that Rocky didn't possess or own. There was a single magazine containing 9mm ammunition in his home. And you'll learn that belonged to his manager, Lou Levin, who will tell you, he will be here and testify why that was his. He also was licensed. Most importantly, though, when it comes to this little issue of the bullets recovered by Relli,
where's the prop panel?
Most importantly, you're going to learn that the shell casings were completely different than the ones that Relli said he found at the scene gave to the police. Completely different. You'll learn that the 9mm ammunition in Rocky's home was a brand called Sig Sauer, and the Relli shell casings that he claims were found at the scene, that the police missed, were a brand called Federal.
Well, that throws that out the window. Now that all
This
that
is
stuff
the
was
one
worth the prop
in the
gun.
house, Sig Luger. The ones at the scene are these from Relli. FC, which stands for Federal Cartridge. Completely different brand, completely different bullet. Those are the ones from the house.
So now where's
That
the
belongs
prop
to someone
hammer?
else.
Prop hammer, case closed.
Those are the ones that Relli claims to have found at the scene. They're different bullets altogether. So much for that big reveal on the opening. They didn't show you that, no. They didn't show you the comparison of the two bullets. Just the magazine. Ooh, it's a 9mm. Different bullets.
Yeah, they was trying to sell it. They were trying to sell it.
In the end, you'll see that all the objective evidence in this case relied on by the prosecution to support a shooting rises and falls, and I mean falls, on the word and credibility of Relli, who is a proven criminal and perjurer. Those shell casings he claims to have found, the superficial scrapes he claims is gunshot wound, the video himself that he even claims he can't make out clearly. We have to rely on his rendition of only. Because without his rendition, you get nothing from any of this. Rakim Mayers, A$AP Rocky's innocent. He's not only not guilty, he's innocent. You'll see that for Relli was never about justice, ever. It's about a man seeking a profit from a fabricated narrative. Rocky has absolutely nothing to hide here. He's a man, evidence will show you, he's a man who built success through passion, valor, and hard work. He stands in stark contrast to this fellow. You'll see Kate stand next week and lie to you over and over again, trying to destroy Rocky for his own financial gain. He's a parasite who wants you to help him get his payday. Ladies and gentlemen, I will ask at your hands for a verdict of not guilty for Rocky, for Rakim Mayers. It's the only verdict consistent with justice. It is the only verdict consistent with fairness.
I cut through the prosecution's examination of this officer as a witness because it was maps and they were basically going over the call, what happened. They watched them. The body cam had them talking to witnesses, but the audio was horrible, wasn't worth even watching. Now we're listening to the defense basically get the lowdown from the officer that we found nothing. There was evidence of nothing. Did you find shells? Did you find damage? Did you find marks in the ground from the lead breaking up on the concrete?
By the way, there was no damage to any of those cars that you found, right?
Not that we saw, no.
You were looking, right? You guys were looking.
Yes, sir.
You were searching for signs of shooting, right?
Correct.
You didn't find any broken glass.
No.
No damaged cars.
No.
No bullet holes.
No.
You established no shell casings.
Correct.
No blood.
Correct.
In fact, you didn't find any signs of shooting, right?
Correct.
There it is. Nothing. Whole bunch of nothing. So that's basically it for day one of the A$AP Rocky trial. We got through the prosecution's opening statements. We got through the defense's opening statements. And we got a little bit of the officer. A lot of dead space in that testimony. So I'm cutting that for time. We're going to get to, like I said at the beginning, we're going to get to the good stuff here as best as we can. It's court proceedings at the end of the day. We know how that goes. My personal opinion, looks like a money grab all the way from the beginning. From the top of it all, looks like a money grab. Looks like Rocky allowed himself to be tricked into a situation by somebody who was antagonizing himself into a payday. Looking forward to day two. Make sure you join me for day two right here on For Beginners. Peace.